Hello! Previously then I've made some simple woodworking tools, including a splitting throw, a rather stout carving knife and a hook knife. Today then I'm going to use my homemade tools and some firewood and make some kitchen utensils. So this was cut down and sawn up a couple of weeks ago, I suppose, and it's already started to split. The wood will tend to split through the heartwood like that, and that's the bit you want to chop out. The pith you want to cut out when you're going to work with the wood. Anyway, two bits of wood here, one is ash, one is hazel. First thing then is to split it, and you can see maybe there, this one started to split as well. So I'll go with that and split just to one side of it. And what I'm aiming for is to get something like a shingle, like a roofing shingle. And this process, I believe, is called riving. With an R. That's good, it's still fairly damp inside. So we've got a couple of wiggles there, but I think we can work with that. So I've left the heartwood in this one and the pith is in there. And I'm going to go for another slice. Slice off it. Can we get anything out of that? Well, that's good. Let's try that. So you can see the basic shape comes together really quickly, and if I was camping, well, I wouldn't need to go any further. This would now be ready for use. But as I'm hoping to put it in the kitchen, I'll tidy it up a bit. I think with a bit more practice I could get to the point at which I'd hardly have to use the sandpaper to finish it off. As this knife with its curved bevels on is capable of, it's got quite a nice like planing cut. There we go. So that's it, roughly finished. What I'll do now is leave that until it's bone dry and then sand it. These ones in ash I did about a week ago, and they're nice and dry now, so they're ready for sanding. So that was making a spatula, and yeah, there was a few minutes work. It's really not enough meat to wrap a video around, so I thought I'd go with something a bit more challenging and try and make some kind of serving spoon out of this bendy bit of firewood. So I spotted this just before I sawed it up into small pieces, and yeah, I thought maybe I can do something with that. So I'm going to put it in the chop saw and cut it off maybe about there, and we'll see what comes out of it. So it seems we've got a bit of a defect in the wood. We'll see what that does for us. Cool. It's a bit more of that defect that I saw in the end is poking through. That defect's getting bigger and bigger. I think I'm going to have to cut it all out. Right, I've cut out the bad stuff, and I've only got half the material left. Yeah, there's not going to be a spoon out of that. This is the eating bowl that I made. Yes, it's quite a crude effort. It's nice and dry now. I've actually used it loads because it just works so nicely. That's the spoon I made go with it. So I'm really quite fond of it. I'm going to try and finish it off. Obviously, it should show up on camera. It's very rough. And that was partly because it was so wet when I was turning that I couldn't get a good finish. It's warped slightly as it's dried, which I don't mind the look of it, but it's going to make it awkward to remount. Here we are at the lathe. This is the expanding chuck that I used to make the bowl, and I'm hoping that this will still grip the recess even though it's warped a bit. Not quite sure how tight to do these. Probably a bit more than hand tight, I guess. That actually seems fairly snug. Because it's not turning very true, I don't think I'm going to be able to get a cutting tool on there. I think I might be better off just sanding it. Let's start it up and see what happens. That's tolerable. That is a hell of a lot better than it was. Still some rough bits, inevitably. Still a few holes in the side, but it does feel a lot nicer. Cool, I'm happy with that. Right, so that's obviously going back to the firewood pile. As is all of that. I've been back to my stack of logs, found this log, which I'd already split with an axe. But even though I split it, I think one of these halves at least should have some potential. So it's like a banana shape rather than the hockey stick shape that the other one was. But even so, there's more material here. I think perhaps this one got some potential. So that, I don't know if you can see, there is the pith. So let's split that away. It's getting there. It's definitely getting there. But that's enough for now. It's very much time for tea. Right, before I go in for the evening, I'm going to put some linseed oil on this lot. So this is raw linseed oil, and it's sold as a food supplement for horses by the look of it. This is boiled linseed oil, which is not actually boiled, but it has chemicals in to make it act as if it was boiled. Basically, this goes off much quicker than this. But the chemicals that are in it that make it dry are, well, they're not food grade, let's put it that way. I don't think they're particularly toxic, but just to be on the safe side, because I'm actually going to be eating from this bowl, I'm going to be sticking this spoon in my mouth. And I'm going to be cooking with the spatulas. I'll use this. So the advantage of this over the olive oil that I used previously is this won't go rancid, and the olive oil might do even when it's impregnated into the wood. Alright, I'll chuck a load in there first. This is a much posher brush than it needs to be. As I mentioned, I did give these a quick sand on the belt sander just to take some of the tool marks out. Yeah, so they're nice and smooth now. Right, I'm going to leave all that as it is. So that second coat, I'm going to let it soak in for, well, all I've been doing. Then I'll come back and clean it all up. And I'll see how it feels there, and I might do another coat in the morning. Last night then, I put on copious quantities of raw linseed oil onto these finished articles. And I came back this morning and gave it another coat. And I think it's probably about done now. So this oil should have soaked in a bit then, and it should make this a lot easier to clean. I'll give it a couple more applications, but that's the really nice thing about oiling wood rather than varnishing it or any other coating on it, is that you can just top up the oil whenever you want. So it's by far my favourite way of finishing wood, and indeed metal. Well, I tend to use beeswax and metal, which obviously look quite similar. Really rather nice now, the oiled finish. Gives a nice satiny sheen to it. And there the bowl is does look quite different to when I done before doing that. It's still quite a crude effort, I'm not denying that, and there's still plenty of marks in there that shouldn't really be there, but overall actually it's a bit more comfortable to hold now, and it's yeah, good to go. So that's them done. They can go back to the kitchen. And then this is how I left the ladle. Still got a way to go, mainly carving out the bowl. It's now just a case then of working my way all over this, trying to tidy it up as much as possible. I should really wait for it to dry properly before I sand it, but I'm a bit impatient with this one. Trouble with sanding it now tends to just sort of make it go fluffy, and yeah, the sandpaper doesn't really cut through when the wood's a bit green. I think something like this would work, well, better, but it has some effect here on the underneath the bowl. But the rasps I've got are really too worn, I think, for that to be usable. What I need is I reckon what I need is a sander, a random orbit sander, something like that. I've got two, and I've lent them both out at the moment, which is yes, poor. So I need a sander with a soft pad, really, that'll conform a bit to this. If I try doing it on the belt sander, it's just going to make loads of flat spots. So I'm going to have a look around, see if I've got anything that might help. I think this might do something. Yeah, that's cleaning that up quite well. This is a 80 grit flap disc, but it's got these Scotch-Brite bits on it as well, which seems to make it a bit gentler than a normal flap disc, and it conforms quite well to curved surfaces like in there and in the bowl. But still, plenty of it comes down to just doing it by hand. Oh, hand sanding's boring, really boring. Right, that I think is about as good as I'm going to get at the moment. So I've done that with 80 grit all over, and then I've gone at it with 120 grit with the grain. Yeah, and I think that's it does feel a lot smoother. It's by no means perfect, but like I say, I'm going to oil it, and then if it survives the drying out, it seems to be what I say about all my woodworking projects. But if it does survive the drying out, I'll give it another go. But for now, yeah. Right, let's chuck some oil on it. Yeah, the drawback I think of using firewood is that I'm restricted to lengths like that. Obviously wood that can go in the fire. I need to keep a better eye out while I'm chainsawing it, really. See if there's any interesting banana shaped bits. I left it soaking overnight in the end in the oil, and I've just cleaned off the excess, and it seems to have quite a reasonable finish to it. I rather like it, you know. It's a bit rustic. So it came from the other half of this log. I think it's quite successful. But it didn't have to take some time. These spatulas then, as you saw, a few minutes each, and you can just really bang them out quick. The little spoon, by the time I got a hang of making spoons, this was reasonably quick to make. But this, I think in total took about half a day's work. It was extraordinary. Yeah. I'm going to make one out of steel at some point just to see the difference. Because I think I can forge something in the style of, this is my steel spatula. I can forge something similar to this a hell of a lot quicker than it took me to make this. But nonetheless, you know, from a piece of firewood, it is quite satisfying to get what I reckon will be quite a handy ladle. This then is a selection of the things that I've made from freshly cut firewood. And yeah, even the handles of the tools were from firewood, although seasoned in that case. And the great thing, of course, about working with firewood is that even if it goes horribly wrong, it's still firewood, so you haven't lost out at all. It's not like having to go out and buy materials and then practice with and hope for the best. As I go through the chainsawing of the rest of the firewood then, I'm going to be keeping an eye out for interesting shaped bits, as I also want to make a handle for my rake, and I need to make an axe handle as well. But I think we've had enough excitement for one video, so I'll leave it there for now. Thanks for watching, I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.